Marta, are you doing solo tracks with War this time, or we're just doing it all together?
We're doing it all together this time. Please rise for the procession and the national anthem.
From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for
Please be seated. Well, welcome everyone to the University of Guelph's Service of Remembrance. My name is Franco Vaccarino, and I have the privilege of being the President and Vice Chancellor of this great university. Thank you to all of you for taking time out of your busy schedules to join us today. And if I could ask just one small item of business, if I could ask you to please silence your cell phones in case you haven't done that for the duration of the service. Thank you. Again, welcome to our service of remembrance, and welcome especially to this place of remembrance. War Memorial Hall was built in 1924 through a community movement to remember those who served in the First World War. At the rear of this hall, where we will lay wreaths today, are two facing tablets. One bears the names of students, of faculty, of staff members who lost their lives in the First World War. The other commemorates those who died in the Second World War. Also in the hall's chapel are two books of remembrance inscribed with the names of all those who served in the armed forces during those world conflicts. Now, one name that is not included there is nevertheless linked in important ways with this city and this community, and indeed with the country and the world. 100 years ago, in 1915, Colonel John McCrae wrote In Flanders Fields, the iconic poem that is read or sung in services held around the world each Remembrance Day. As many of you know, McCrae was born right here in Guelph. And shortly I will invite Dr. Ann Wilson to the podium to pay tribute to Dr. John McCrae. Now, following the tribute to John McCrae, the procession will collect the commemorative wreaths and a rose bowl that has become a symbol of the university's history and place them in the chapel at the back of the building. Carrying the rose bowl will be David Hales, descendant of John Playford Hales, in whose memory the bowl was created. Members of our community who will be laying wreaths today will be representing faculty and staff, Dr. Charlotte Yates, our Provost and Vice President Academic, and Dave Scott Thomas from the Department of Athletics. Ontario Agriculture College first year student class president, David Westerveld, and the Graduate Student Association president, Will Gillam, will lay the wreath for students. The UGAA President Elizabeth Thompson and alumna Heather Robinson will lay the wreath for alumni. Laying a wreath on behalf of the local region, laying the wreath on behalf of the local Legion will be Howard Hall, accompanied by Ifti Sheikh and Jamie Vanderberg from the multi-faith team here on campus. And now I'm pleased to invite Dr. Ann Wilson, Acting Dean of the College of Arts, to the podium.
John McCrae, physician, poet, soldier, and teacher, was born at 108 Water Street in Guelph on the 30th of November, 1872. John McCrae was the second child of Lieutenant Colonel David McCrae and Janet Simpson Eckford McCrae. His brother Thomas, older than John by 2 years, became a physician and professor of medicine at Johns Hopkins University. Jill was their younger sister. John McCrae attended Central Public School and Guelph Collegiate Vocational Institute. At age 14, he joined the Guelph Highland Cadets, attaining the rank of first lieutenant. At age 16, John McCrae entered the University of Toronto, graduating in 1894 with a Bachelor of Arts. The year before he graduated, McCrae took a year off, returning to Guelph, where he was the resident master in English and mathematics at the Ontario Agricultural College. McCrae was enrolled briefly in the Ontario Veterinary College before returning to the University of Toronto to study medicine. After his graduation in 1898, he enlisted as an artillery officer during the Second Boer War in South Africa. Upon his return from the Boer War, McCrae had a distinguished career as a physician. After completing a fellowship in pathology at McGill University, he held a number of positions concurrently. He was the Associate of Medicine at the Royal Victoria Hospital in Montreal, while he was also the resident officer at the Toronto General Hospital. And he was also a special professor of pathology at the University of Vermont, a position he held until 1911. On August 4th, 1914, England and the countries of the Commonwealth entered World War I. On September 22nd, 1914, John McCrae, then a man of 41 years of age, enlisted. He had wanted to be in the artillery, but he was assigned to be a brigade surgeon. In April of 1915, McCrae, who held the rank of lieutenant colonel, and his unit saw intense military action in the battlefields of France, where they attended to those who were injured by the chlorine attacks. McCrae was known as a compassionate man who had a tremendous affinity for people and for other animals. While in France, he adopted an abandoned dog, which he named Bonneau. McCrae had also brought his horse, Bonfire, from Canada to France, and he called Bonfire and Bonneau his little family. The two animals brought him great comfort as he witnessed the devastating effects of warfare. He was increasingly worn and despondent by the grim reality of World War I and how it was claiming the lives of young men, including through the use of chemical warfare. Early on Sunday morning, May 2nd, 1915, two members of the brigade in which McCrae served, Lieutenants Owen Haig and Alexis Helmer, left their positions to check on the Canadian battery, which was positioned close to the border between Belgium and France. As they left the safety of their dugout, Lieutenant Helmer was hit by a German shell. He was killed instantly. He was 22 years of age. He was a friend of John McCrae's. Helmer's body was blown to pieces by the shell. The parts of the body which could be found were gathered and put on an army blanket. the chaplain had been called away, and so Lieutenant Colonel McCrae was asked to conduct the burial service for Alexis Helmer on the evening of May 2nd. McCrae used selections from the Church of England's Order of the Burial of the Dead as he presided over the interment of his friend, who was laid to rest in a grave marked by a simple wooden cross. Later that evening, John McCrae began to write in Flanders Fields. We remember. I invite those of you who are able to rise to stand for the laying of the wreaths.
Flanders fields the poppies grow, between the crosses row on row, that mark our place, and in the sky the larks still bravely singing fly. Scarce heard amid the guns below. We are the dead, short days ago. We lived as dawns, saw sunsets glow, loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders fields, in Flanders fields, and now we lie in Flanders fields. Take up our quarrel with the foe, to you from failing hands we throw. The torch be yours to hold it high. If ye break faith with us who die, we shall not sleep though poppies grow. In Flanders fields we shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders fields.
Please be seated. We will now hear a responsive reading and the last post. The reading and the audience responses are on the overhead screens. I would like to invite the readers to the podium. Marta Thorpe, one of our 2015 Chancellor's Scholarship recipients, OAC First Year Student Class President David Westerveld, and Elizabeth Thompson, Vice President of the University of Guelph Alumni Association.
They went with song to the battle. They were young, straight of limb, true of eye, steady and aglow. They were staunch to the end against odds uncounted. They fell with their faces to the foe. They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
Take up our quarrel with the foe. To you from failing hands we throw. The torch be yours to hold it high. If ye break faith with us who die, we shall not sleep though poppies grow in Flanders fields. Please rise for the last post and a minute of silence.
We speak here of the challenge of the dichotomies of war and peace, violence and nonviolence, racism and human dignity, oppression and repression, and liberty and human rights, poverty and freedom from want. This must be a world of democracy and respect for human rights, a world freed from the horrors of poverty, hunger, deprivation, and ignorance, relieved of the threat and the scourge of civil wars and external aggression, and unburdened of the great tragedy of millions forced to become refugees. Let the efforts of us all prove that Martin Luther King Jr. was not a mere dreamer when he spoke of the beauty of genuine brotherhood and peace being more precious than diamonds or silver or gold.
Let me now invite to the lectern Ifti Sheikh and Jamie Vanderberg from the multi-faith team here on campus. Maybe let's start with the, no, go ahead. Thank you. If I could ask now Ifti Sheikh and Jamie Vanderberg to the lectern. Thank you.
Be seated, please. This reading is a poem by Federico Mayer, a Spanish scientist, scholar, politician, diplomat, and a poet. He says, "We will plant olive trees where before there were thorns. All of us the same, each one of us different. We will walk hand in hand with a new song of love on our lips. We will plant olive trees where before there were thorns. Sharing is the one urgent need in this dawn of century. Paz, peace, paxi, mir, shalom, salam. We will plant olive trees where before there were thorns."
We mark this day with people across this country in order to remember. And we remember for at least 3 reasons. In remembering, we honor those who gave their lives for the freedoms that we enjoy today. In remembering, we take the lessons from the past and begin to apply them to today. And in remembering, we take an initial step, one more step toward peace. If you read the journals or the writings of so many people who lived in the trenches or who fought on the front lines, you'll hear them long for peace. Jean Vanier was one of those men. Jean Vanier fought in World War II and went on from there to found numerous communities for those with disabilities in his lifetime. And large communities are found across the world. Jean Vanier this year was invited to receive the Templeton Prize. And I'd like to share with you the words that he has written about peacemaking. Peacemaking is not just doing big things to solve big conflicts in the way of Nelson Mandela or Mahatma Gandhi or George Mitchell. We are not all called to work for peace on the international level, but we are all called to become women and men of peace wherever we may be, in our families, at our work, in our neighborhoods. We are called to be open and welcoming to others inside and outside of our community, our culture, our faith groups. To be a peacemaker means not to judge or condemn or speak badly of people, not to rejoice in any form of ill that may strike them. Peacemaking is holding people gently, wishing them to be well and free. Peacemaking is welcoming people who are weak and in need, maybe just with a smile, giving them support, offering them kindness and tenderness, and opening our hearts to them. It is welcoming those with whom we may have difficulty or whom we may not especially like, those who are culturally, psychologically, or intellectually different than us. It is to approach people not from a pedestal, a position of power and certitude in order to solve problems, but from a place of listening, understanding, humility, and love. When we relinquish power, we become more open to the other. We work for peace every time we exercise authority with wisdom and authentic love. And this love is not sentimental. Instead, it reveals to people who they are, enabling them to make choices and to follow their own conscience. It is listening to people and appreciating them just as they are, friends, neighbor, family. We need to become humble servant leaders in order to help others grow in knowledge, wisdom, freedom, and responsibility, so that they may become, in the depths of their beings, more human. Thank you.
Well, thank you to everyone for making time to join us today as we remember those who served our country. Through their sacrifices, we enjoy the freedom that we have today. Now the choir will sing once more, followed by a formal recession, and you're welcome to remain in the hall to reflect and leave when you are ready. Thank you again to all of you for joining us today.
After the guns are silent, after your wounds have healed, after those crosses been planted in all those fields, after blood no more dried all the way across the sea, and after this train carries thee, I will love you after the war. I love you for always and forevermore. I will love you after the war, forever, for always and more. After my boots dried and the tobacco's all but gone, along with the postcards I've carried under my arm, after I remember all the words I couldn't say, and after this long night fades away, I will love you after the war. I love you for always and forevermore. I will love you after the war, forever, for always and more. this black cloud lifts up from off your chest, and after your soul takes its final rest, my love, please forgive me. I never planned to die. And love placed 2 pennies for my eyes. I will love you after the war. I love you for always and forevermore. I will love you after the war. Forever, for always.